860,000 reserve personnel, 2,400 killed in Afghanistan. I can continue to throw numbers at you during this Veterans Day assembly, but that's all it would be, is numbers. Unless you have a family member, a friend, a neighbor that you know specifically, you know their story, these figures are just numbers. Veterans Day began to honor those people who were willing to risk the ultimate sacrifice for others. It is a day to thank those who currently serve or have served in the military to protect what so many of us take for granted. Unless you have a family member, a friend, a neighbor who is a veteran, and you truly know their story, too many of us take this day for granted. Today we get to recognize all of our veterans who have given something of themselves to this country that continues to provide us with our freedom by their duty, their honor, and their selfless service. Freedom is something we take for granted too often until that freedom is threatened. About the time that you guys were born, this freedom was threatened. Our country understood what Veterans Day was all about that year, and everyone was showing their gratitude across the country. 18 years later, the numbers 9/11 are just that to too many people. They're just numbers. Today, if you have a family member, a friend, or a neighbor who is a veteran, I urge you to take time to thank them. Today is a day to be grateful for the freedoms we take for granted. Today is a day to thank those who have made it possible for us not to be able to understand how others live in a society without everything we take for granted on a daily basis. I would like to welcome all of you to our Veterans Day Assembly. A special thank you to our fire department who has donated this beautiful flag once again. A warm welcome and a thank you to all the veterans seated before me. Words will never be enough. At this time, I ask all of you to rise as Matt Simonson leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance and to stay standing for our national anthem. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the boats bursting in, came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home
Please be seated. Good morning. Today I have the honor of announcing a few remarkable staff members here at Blair High School. We have many great people who work in this building, but these administrators have gone above and beyond. Please stand as I call your name. Larry McKee, Sarah Skinner, Aaron McLean, Ed Mills, although he can't be with us today, and Steve Callahan, who has been filling in for Mrs. Vernon during her absence. It is such a blessing for us students to have you in our school. Not only do you serve us every day, but you also serve this country. Students, remember to give an extra special thank you to them today in the halls. You know that they are strong individuals if they protected this country, and they still have the strength to come here and be with us every day. Thank you.
Today in the U.S., there are over 20 million living U.S. veterans, and since 1938, on the 11th day of the 11th month, we celebrate these brave men and women that have unselfishly placed their lives on the line for our freedom. We celebrate the ordinary people that have made the ultimate decision to answer the call of duty. They left their families, their homes, and their lives, not for the recognition that we give them here today, but instead to protect our country and maintain our freedom. On Veterans Day, we take time out of our day to honor veterans of past and present. But it's important to remember that veterans are defending us 365 days a week. The heroism that's been demonstrated time and again by veterans from the American Revolution to the global war on terrorism is sometimes unnoticed by those of us who enjoy the security that their sacrifice has provided. For many veterans, our nation was important enough to endure long separations from their families, miss the births of children, freezing sub-zero temperatures, bake in wild jungles, lose limbs, and far too often lose their lives. For these reasons, our debts to veterans can never be repaid. For the veterans that are present here today, on behalf of Blair High School, we'd like to say thank you for your service.
I'm going to, on behalf of all the veterans sitting out before me, thank you to the future farmers of America for hosting the reception this morning. We really appreciate it. We have representing before us veterans from Vietnam, the Vietnam area. As you may know, we call those who served in country Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans. Those who served outside of the country during those conflicts, they're referred to as era veterans. So I'm a Vietnam era veteran, but we have a lot of veterans who served in country in Vietnam. Bob Peterson in Korea. Just raise your hand if you served in Korea. Raise your hand if you served in Vietnam. And raise your hand if you served in Iraq or Afghanistan or other countries in country. All the rest of there's one right here. All the rest of us are era veterans or still on active duty, still in the reserves in some cases. So thank you for coming out. Thanks to Mr. Anderson. Thanks to Blair High School, the choir, the band, everyone that's participated. You make our day when you invite us to your house. In a recent American Legion presentation, it was noted that camaraderie, warrior ethos, esprit de corps, all are words that can be used to describe what it means to be a veteran and to have served in our nation's military. In each other, we find community. As veterans, we are acutely aware of the sacrifices made by our service members. We are equally aware of the cost of those sacrifices. We know the value of the lessons that our military service bestowed upon us. These are things that we cannot afford to lose to time. As we honor our nation's living veterans today, we must remember the words of Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, the Iraq War's first living recipient of the Medal of Honor. Sergeant Bellavia related that all throughout our history, we have had people that have dissented, that have disagreed, and we've found ways to put everything aside and focus on what's best for this nation, what's best for mission success. So to those who came before, to those whom I had the privilege to serve with, and to those who have followed, thank you for your selfless service as today we honor those who have worn our nation's uniforms. God bless you for inviting us here today, and God bless the United States of America. And now, it is my privilege to introduce a fellow Legionnaire, a former member of the 5th Corps, U.S. Army Cavalry. If you don't believe me, when he walks up, he still has his cavalry spurs on, and he can still get into his uniform several years after he got out of the military. So with a great deal of pleasure, I'd like to invite Scott Walker to come forward for a special presentation.
Well, I made a promise to my son that I would not single him out or embarrass him today. So, Gabriel, I'm going to fulfill my promise. I won't single you out. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank the Lord above to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Please remain standing. Scott kind of summed up, I think, what all of us feel in our heart as to why we serve the U.S. military. Thank you, Scott. Fantastic. Would you please remain standing as we have taps played in honor and memory of all those that gave the supreme sacrifice as they served.
Please join me in thanking Carl, Scott, and all the veterans in front of me one more time. Once the veterans have left the gym, if you would go to your AEP at this time, but please stay standing as they leave.